Hello friends, today's Fiendish Mind is a writer of horror fiction whose works include Consumed, Devil's Day and Dark Island. He's one of the first horror writers I connected with online, opening my eyes to a vast interconnected world of authors, many of whom I consider friends and colleagues. He's a great bloke, honest, sharing and funny. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with the one and only Kyle M. Scott. Hello Kyle,
Hey
how are
there.
you getting on, brother?
I'm good, Jack. I'm good.
Very
How are
good.
you, mate?
I'm spot on, mate, and I'm all the more pleased for having you here. It's
Thank you,
been
man. It's
been a
good to
long
be here.
time since we had a catch up, isn't it?
Aye, many years, mate. Many years.
How's the lockdown treating you? How are you keeping yourself entertained?
Eh, I'm kind of living on a diet of wine and procrastination at this point, to be honest with you. Yeah, just taking it a day at a time, drinking far too much, writing far too little, playing far too many video games. Just basically, I'm like, yeah.
That just sounds like a normal day in the life of a writer, really.
It pretty much is. It's not really changed that much, other than there's less people, which I'm kind of okay with, you know.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's not really changed that much at all. Yeah,
What you been reading,
10% writing,
watching?
90%. What have I been watching? What have I been watching? A lot of movies. I've been watching a lot of horror films. Catching up with a lot of things like I saw Daniel Isn't Real, and catching up with this quote unquote elevated horror, you know, kind of thing. The Lighthouse, things like that.
Yeah.
Great stuff, like brilliant
Uh-huh.
stuff. Box set, and I've got to be honest with you, my partner got Disney X or Disney Plus, whatever the fuck it's
Oh,
called.
yeah.
It's not very good, might I say, but it's got every episode of The Simpsons. So I've been,
Ah,
I've been going back and rewatching The Simpsons. So I've
some
been
of the
living on a diet
classics.
of yeah. So it's been cool. It's like
Very
a little
good.
time capsule. You can just go back to your youth and watch the
Yeah.
shows you used to watch and all that. So it's good.
Yeah, I can't remember when I dropped off The Simpsons, but it was many years before the movie. I just kind of tapered off because I was
Same here.
kind of lured away by like American Dad and Family Guy and stuff, you
So
know.
was I. Yeah, South Park and all that. That was the same.
Aye, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
nice
like
to
the.
be back.
Aye,
It's
it's
nice to
nice.
be funny. It's a gentler kind of humour, you know.
Yeah,
It's warmer, so
but often
it's
very
kind of nice.
prescient. Often very
Yeah,
prescient, wasn't it?
yeah,
Of
yeah.
they,
Well, that's
they.
why there's so many conspiracy theories about them knowing what's going down and all that. Because like you watch an episode and then I feel like 20 years ago, you're like, holy fuck, this is the world we live in at this point, you know. So
Yeah,
it's strange, but yeah, it's good.
and
Other
there we
than
point
that,
out Fox connection as well.
aye, of course, yeah.
What video games you been playing on then?
The entire lockdown, I've been playing one fucking game, man. It's been Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's the biggest game I've ever played in my life. I'm
Yeah.
actually sick of it now. It's became like a curse. It's like just fucking end, you know. I'm like 108 years in, and it's ridiculous. And every time I load it up, it says like your playtime 108 hours. I'm like, this is my life, man. I've got one shot at this. I'm sitting playing this fucking thing, you know. But yeah, that's it. That's that. And there's a game called Hunt Showdown. It's a really good game. It's very underrated. Nobody knows about it. Well, not many people know about it, but it's starting to build an audience. It's kind of a cross between like a survival horror and like a battle royale kind of game. So I've been
Right.
playing a lot of that.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, done nothing productive whatsoever.
I don't know. It sounds all right to me.
Aye, well, it's been okay, you know.
How's the lockdown been affecting your creativity? You said you've been procrastinating a bit and not writing as much as you'd like.
It's not been as I figured when it happened. You'll probably feel the same way. I figured that I would be writing every day, and it would be a constant, and there would be some kind of routine that I would get into. But that's not the way I work. The way I work seems to be I'll have bursts of creativity, and then I'll have periods of nothing. You know,
Yeah.
and it's kind of been the same really. It's the main difference being that I don't have any set ritual or any set location to write. I like to like pack up my laptop, get on the bike, find somewhere nice on the coast, and then write there. But it's became less of a thing, obviously, through the quarantine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not changed greatly. I went through a really intense period of work last month, but this month has been almost null and void, you know. But that will
Nice.
change as soon as I pick up and I have to force myself. It's the whole get out of your own way thing, you know. I have to
Yeah,
actually
absolutely.
force myself to do it. And once I start doing it, it's like when I feel most alive. But it's sitting your arse down and actually saying, okay, right, I'm going to do this. I can do this. This is it.
Yeah.
I've got what it takes. Blah blah blah. You know. A lot of the
I'm
days, it's the muse isn't there. You know.
I'm exactly
So,
the same. Trying to nail myself to the desk sometimes and go just
aye,
do a few hundred words, get into a
yeah,
flow, and then the next thing, 1,200 words, couple of
that's it.
thousand words sometimes, you know, and
That's it.
and
Yeah.
you know, even in this last week, I've done it a couple of times, mate, and I've written some scenes that even when I finished the scenes, I thought that's not going in there,
Aye.
but
Oh,
I needed to write it to get it out the way because it was a block, and I thought there's going to be a better way to move those pieces around the board.
yeah.
I'll have to find it, but that's done now. I've done it, and
Yeah.
I've practiced today, and that was it, you know.
Yeah.
So
I do
there
the
definitely
same
is
thing.
something.
I do the same thing. I always thought the writer's block was a myth, but it absolutely is not. It's all internalized, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
once you break through that, like you say, even a paragraph sometimes can be enough to set you free. You know, to unchain it. But it's I don't know if you have this, but I have this almost like an impending sense of doom when I start writing. No matter how much I've done, no matter how much I've achieved or got down the way I wanted it, when I start writing, when I sit down to write, it's always a terrifying experience. For some reason, I have it in my head that every day I can't do this, and then I have to will myself to do it. And usually within a paragraph or two, I'm rolling, you know, off I
Flying
go.
with it,
yeah, and that's it, and the day disappears, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely I get what you mean. I mean that my current work in progress is a book that I termed unwritable a while ago. I hope that's not an omen that it means it's fucking going to be unreadable. But I'm right. It's definitely one that I'm thinking. Well, in the first instance, I'll write it for me because it's one I've tinkered with over the years. 20 years now, I've been messing with it and putting it off, and I thought, no, this is the time. Across 20 years, because it grew into something. You know, I was thinking through the 9th book in the series before I'd even, you know,
put pen to page, so to speak.
Yeah, and you know, I've done it. I've written the first in the series twice before, but I've never been happy with the way that it was coming out or laid out, you know. And then last year it kind of came to me. I thought it clicked. I thought there's a way that I can write this. I've just thought how I can come back to this and do it. And like I say, I just at the minute doing it for me to sort of exercise a demon.
Yeah,
and then
that's what it's all about, man.
Rewrite it for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that if you're not doing it for yourself, if you don't enjoy it and enjoy the process, no one else is going to enjoy it.
That's it.
It has to be for you first and foremost, because nobody's doing this for a paycheck, you know.
Yeah,
it's just not the way it works. So, the artist's life is not one of wealth for most, but I'm with you in that, man. It's a process. I've worked on a series as well. I have a series too. It's not been 20 years. It's been about maybe 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happened with me. I got through the first book. I've had it written for like 2 years now, the first book in the series, but I've never released it. And I've never been content with the way it goes, or the way it flows, or the themes in it. So it's the same thing. It's like, and it also has to match up with what comes in the future. You have to make sure that you're leaving breadcrumbs for some stories that are going to be told and how the themes are going to envelope or fold back into it. So it becomes quite cumbersome. I don't know how guys like George R.R. Martin do it. I mean, I'm assuming it's through wine, and 10 years between a book seems to be the way to go. You know?
It seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, just take your time out.
I would think he
had for 10 years, you know.
Yeah, and I think things like that are almost sleepers, aren't they? People don't catch on. Like even like Harry Potter, people didn't catch on to Harry Potter till about book 4.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so there's a lot of grinding out done before then, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
And then it gets some word of mouth and a bit of momentum, and
you
know.
Aye. And it can be quite daunting when you're going through that, can't it? You know, it's like is anyone going to ever read this? Is this ever going to happen? It's almost like your life's work to an extent. It has, because it's taking up a huge chunk of your time on the planet. So you feel it can be quite disconcerting to experience that, but you just got to keep going. You got to have faith in it, and you got to believe in what you're doing and enjoy
Absolutely.
it. As
And you
say,
said it right before. Get out of your own way.
Yeah, get out your own way. You've got to, because it's so easy to just let the world and everything in it, come crashing in, let the houses bend in upon you, so to speak, And you've got to push through that and remember that this is the pure thing that you're doing, and it has a place.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's deciding that this particular story deserves to be told. Yeah. I just have to find the right voice to tell it in, or the right combination of words to express it.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of threads that I'm going to try and pick back up on with you in a minute, but I just wanted to sort of look back with you at when you first started out with your writing, and were you serious about it right away? Did you come into it going, I am going to be an author, and just start, or did you write for a while and then sort of decide later, I'm getting serious about this?
Yeah, to start with, for me, there was no intent whatsoever. I wrote a couple of short stories, and I gave them around to some friends and stuff, and they seemed to dig them. So I was like, okay, there might be something here, who knows, blah, blah, blah. So I put together 4 stories. They became Consumed Volume 1, just 4 short stories. I thought I'll compile them together and release it as a volume. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. It's no skin off my back, I put that on Amazon, and it was relatively well received. It wasn't greatly read, but the people that read it enjoyed it, despite the errors and so on, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just flying by the seat of my pants kind of thing. Then when I wrote my first novel, Devil's Day, and that took off, and that was quite successful, and I started to realise within myself that this is where I'm at, this is what I do, and it was liberating, to say the least. It was like, okay, this is my job, this is what I do, and if I keep working on it, I can make it work, and I can put work out there that's quality, whether it's every year, every 2 years, it doesn't really matter to me when the length of the process. It just all that matters is that the work that goes out is as good as it can be. So it was really when Devil's Day came out, that was when I started saying, okay, it looks like I might actually be a writer. This might be something I can do, as opposed to just some guy sitting, cranking it out for his friends kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think if in some ways the friends thing can be helpful. In other ways it can be somewhat harmful, because there are some people who will take that as, oh well, this handful of people who are largely very kind to you because they don't want to shit on you. Some people can get a bit stuck in that and maybe not elevate their game. But I've got to say, having read both Consumed and Devil's Day, you definitely upped your game by Devil's Day.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely.
I was starting to understand, the process at that point. So it was, it was more of a concerted effort, I guess, to create something that would be worthwhile. At least something I could hold in my hand and say, hey, I did this, man. I can give this to my kids. I can, let the world see this. If the world wants to see it, they have it. If not, they don't. But that's fine. But I was, at that point, I wanted to write something that really kind of captured my love of the genre and captured the things that I grew up loving, and it's kind of a love letter to horror, to everything from the video nasty era to monster movies to the Goonies. I wanted to capture that whole thing and encompass the whole thing in one story.
You did. You pulled
just in case it never took off. So. What?
You pulled it together lovely. I always kind of thought, I always thought that Devil's Day was, if they filmed it and made it into a movie, the characters in it would have been watching that movie on the night that the events happen.
Yeah,
they'd be sitting on Halloween watching
definitely.
Devil's Day. It was the book that appealed to those characters within it, and there was a real strong sense of sort of 80s video cases and things like that. I definitely got that from it. And
thanks, man.
Just to sort of go back as well, I mean, I enjoyed Consumed. I was surprised by Consumed because I remember thinking, this isn't something I would have necessarily went and bought for myself. But back in the day, it was you and I had kind of found each other. That was Stuart Keane. And we all kind of swapped some books, didn't we, to just go, because we were getting involved in a project together, and we all kind of sent each other our work. So, and I read it, and I thought, my God, the subject matter or the level of the violence in it was something that maybe wouldn't have originally appealed to me, or had consumed been like a set of short films, I wouldn't necessarily have went, I'm going to pick them to watch tonight.
Yeah.
It would have been something that would have been introduced to me by a friend who would say, here, have a beer, we'll sit and watch this. Or so I came to that in that way of a friend introducing me to it, who happened to have written it. And I thought, my God, I was really surprised by the fact that I was drawn in by the writing, and that then made the actual events that I was reading about more, I don't want to say palatable, because I'm going to sound like a prude if I say that, but I don't know, you sold me the whole thing. The writing sold me the whole thing,
Yeah, well, that's the idea. It can't be just about violence. It can't be just, here's gore, here's blood and guts and all that bullshit. Because if you just write that, and there is an element in extreme horror industry, if you want to call it an industry, if you want to call it extreme horror, I don't particularly like labels, but that it will be fueled by the graphic imagery and so on. And I think that's only a tool to tell the story. The story has to be, the characters has to matter, the atmosphere has to be right, the themes have to be right, and then the violence is the icing on the cake. Hopefully it drives the point home as opposed to being the point.
Yes, definitely. And definitely that separation, I experienced that separation while I was reading Consumed. But I think when we got to Devil's Day, because you were writing a full novel, you had so much more time and space to, bring those characters to life and bring the effects of the events home to those characters and sell them to the reader, and I think it really worked, particularly well.
Yeah, I definitely prefer writing novels. I love short stories. I mean, it's kind of a lost art, or was anyway. It's coming back now, but yeah, it's much more freeing to have time to explore every avenue, the characters, and also you'll kind of live with a book for a while. If you write a short story, you're working on it for a while, like a couple of days. Whereas with a novel, it can take 6 months to a year. For me, anyway, I'm quite a slow worker, but it gives me time to live with the characters and breathe in their skin, and I think that it helps authenticate it. It helps give it an authenticity that as far as, it doesn't matter whether it's horror or classic literature, it doesn't matter. As long as that authenticity is there, it will come through, and that's what has to be there.
Absolutely.
It's the most important thing.
And in terms of authenticity, in terms of your interest in horror, where did your overall love of horror come from?
It came from, it began in childhood. It came from like some really intense experiences I had. I remember seeing The Omen when I was perhaps 7 or 8, maybe younger. It could have been younger, but I remember after it, I was lying in my room at night and I had this sensation of utter terror, and it appealed to me, and over time that I started to delve into it, and anytime I could get my hands on any of the video nasties or any of the 18 certificates, I would watch them when my parents went to bed. Sneak downstairs, pop these films on and get a rush out of them, and it almost became like, they became comforting, they became like friends. These movies became almost like a sheltering companion, I guess. And I fell in love with the genre. I fell in love with every aspect of it, from the slasher movement to the Universal horror films. The Hammer horror movies were a huge influence on me. A whole Technicolor nightmare, and there's something deeply soothing about it, while at the same time being very troubling. And I fell head over heels. And I was very adept in art, drawing and painting and so on. But I would spend all my time drawing Freddy Krueger's or drawing Jason Voorhees or Frankenstein's monster and things like that. So it kind of happened naturally. It was one of those things where it's almost like it sought me out, and I didn't really seek it out. But I was an 80s kid, so it was You know, it was meant to be, so to speak.
Yeah. I suppose
You
there's
know?
all the sort of John Carpenter, Wes Craven,
Yeah.
just there's so much of it flying around, wasn't there, at the
Yeah, and
time?
it was all great. It was all great stuff. And even the shitty ones, you know, are still great. You know, I can watch Sleepaway Camp or something like that, and the sleaziness in that movie, it's the greasiest film in the world, you know, when you watch it. But I had my partner watch it, and she's like, "This is almost perverted," and it was like, "I know, that's what's so beautiful about it. It has it's like this get released, you know."
Yeah.
And I love that, and I love that kind of the kind of flutter you got in your stomach when you watched horror as a kid. You know, it's
Mm.
harder to be scared now, obviously, but I love that. I love the feeling of it. It was the first of the many intoxicants that I would enjoy as my
Yeah.
time. You know,
And
so
definitely, as you were speaking before, I did think of that, of the sort of intoxicating nature of it, the idea of sort of being repelled by something, but having the release of that
yeah,
repellent, something that you would never want to experience for yourself with your body.
yeah,
You
yeah,
get to, in a limited time frame, you get to experience it on a screen, or whether you're playing a video game. I suppose it brings an extra dimension to it.
hmm
Um, and then you get to withdraw. You get to go back to,
yeah.
you get to
Normalcy,
live on, and you get
whatever
to
normalcy is, you get to go
step
back to.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I suppose with the books, though, where that becomes more effective is you're not watching it with your partner. It's a solitary
hmm
experience, isn't it? So
yeah,
somebody is
yeah,
experiencing the events in Blackhaven, in Devil's Day, on their own. And so I
yeah,
guess the
yeah.
tension and the scares get heightened. So
Yeah,
that
well, I hope
intoxicant,
so.
it's a higher
Yeah,
dose.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when books came along, the first book I read that was a horror, pardon me, was Misery, and by Stephen King, and that came about. I just saw the cover in the shop, and I was like, I'm buying this. I'd never read a book before in my life. I've never actually read any novels, and at school I would read the back of the novel and then do I used to have to do reports,
Yeah,
like read this book and then do a report on it and all that shit.
just wing
Well,
it.
I would just wing it, yeah, yeah. But with that book, I sat down and read it, and immediately it was like there's something pure about it, because your imagination is without your imagination, there is no story. You know,
Mm.
it's the writer's just the conduit between the reader and the story being told. And for me, it's purer, you know, and it's still purer. You know, I think it always will be. I don't think there's any special effect or any character development in any movie that can match what can be done on the written page if the writer's willing to, go there.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that's why some of in terms of horror movies that I enjoyed things like the original Ring.
mm,
And I think what I probably enjoyed most about it was left largely to your mind,
yeah,
because they probably, they didn't have a massive budget. They weren't green screen and everything. You were
yeah,
seeing, these weird distorted faces and things like that.
yeah.
But you're like, what the fuck is going on? And
Fuck
then
is that?
in
Yeah,
the end, we get to see what's causing it. And you just like, it was just so
yeah,
disturbing because it was left to
yeah,
you to make your mind up about it,
yeah.
And
Definitely. That one stands out, man. I remember
yeah,
seeing The Ringo for the first time, and it was just mind blowing to me.
yeah,
It was like, holy fuck. I was scared shitless, and I was a young adult at that point, and I was still scared shitless.
aye,
And it's like, and it still happens now. I mean, The Witch scared the hell out of me, and
yeah.
then
And that's not one that everybody enjoyed, but I'm with you on The Witch.
yeah, a lot of people. This kind of, I hate the term elevated horror that's being used, because horror was always elevated, and it always seems to come around at times of political strife and so on.
Mm,
But it's these movies that are coming out, they kind of burrow into your brain, as opposed to, look, here's violence, here's this, here's that,
yeah,
here's
yeah.
excitement. They're slow and methodical, and they kind of burrow into your psyche. And I think that's what great horror does, and I think that's what literary horror does.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I think the marketing. You talked. We've mentioned about sort of genre and labels, and I think that maybe the marketing for Witch didn't help it. I remember seeing a trailer for it in a movie, and the way they cut the trailer, it looked like it was going to be something like, say, that Daniel Radcliffe Woman in Black,
Yeah,
where
like a
you were
jump
going,
scare fucking
where you were going to
thing.
get creepy and jump scares. And I think a lot of people went in there expecting that because of the way that this trailer had been cut. I can't remember what the trailer was attached to. It was maybe The Boy or something like that. So I think it was pitched to completely the wrong audience. And what we got was this sort of this slow build, this boiler. Yeah. And it really worked on me because I could separate it from the trailer. And obviously it worked on you. And
I don't watch trailers, so I have a massive issue with them. I've got a bugbear about these things, man, especially when it comes to horror. But a lot of the time they do that. There was another film that was, what was it called, man? It Comes at Night, I think it was called.
Oh, right.
And the trailer, I did see the trailer for that, and it implied this fast-paced, frenetic horror vibe, and it wasn't there. And it's, if you want to bring in the teenage crowd, you have your Conjuring movies and your movies along those lines, which are fun in their own way. There's nothing wrong with them. But I think these more thoughtful, more psychological and intellectual horrors they should be marketed in such a way where, like the way The Shining was marketed. If you watch The Shining's original trailers, you never really seen anything. You just get this feeling of unease and dread.
Just dread, yeah. The uncanny.
So when I go to the cinema with the missus, she loves trailers. I'm considering filing for divorce about it because I sit there in the cinema like this, man. Like I look like an asshole in the cinema. I sit like this and fucking this, and just refuse to watch trailers at this point because they give away so much, and as you say, they do it in such a way where you're given the impression that this movie's going to be something that it's not.
Yeah, mis-selling it, isn't it?
Yeah, you have people going to something like The Witch and they're expecting some supernatural, action-packed. I mean, I still haven't seen the trailer for it, but I'm assuming that's the way it goes. And what they get is a study of the dangers is it Puritanism? Is that the right word?
I think that's what they were, yeah.
And I think a lot of audiences, certainly for horror, it's changing now, thank God, but I think for a period there after the 80s, when the 90s kind of went dull and then Scream came out and all that, it became more of a teenage thing, more of it was young people getting in for a scare with their girlfriends or with their mates, maybe having a spliff or like a drink before it and going in and just enjoying the kind of vibe of it. But it seems to be moving back towards being what it originally was, which is psychological terror, and I think that's the future of horror. I think that's where it's going.
And certainly current times are giving us a lot to think about.
That's it, yeah. I mean, it always thrives. If you look at like the 70s horror scene was fantastic. And it's always during social change and upheaval that horror seems to tap into that main line of like the fears that people have. And then in periods of, there's never periods of peace, but when there's periods of relative perceived peace, then horror becomes almost a placating thing. It almost becomes, it loses its teeth, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, it's almost like it has nothing to say.
It's got nothing to rally against or to fight against, and I think any rebellious art form has to have something to fight against,
So let's have a think back to, you said you like to get out there with your laptop. And obviously that's a bit of a struggle at the minute. So are you when you're forced to sort of stay indoors to do your writing, do you need silence? Do you like a soundtrack on? How do you work at specific times of day?
There's not really any rhyme or reason to it. No? It's usually I don't play music. Very often when I'm writing, and if I do, it'll be something that's usually completely inappropriate for the writing. Like I listen to Dr. John and listen to music about the Bayou and Louisiana and all that when I'm writing a book that's set in Scotland or something. But there's never any. I don't use the music that I love to fuel the writing. They can go separate. They're very separate things. A lot of the time, I will have old classic horror movies in the background, black and white films, be they Universal movies or some of the early Italian horror films. But only for. I mean, the sound's off, so it's only for the visual, just to. And I'm not even looking at it. It's just knowing that it's there and knowing that I'm in the. Kind of horror, if you like, because everywhere else is bright and shiny, most of the time our house is quite minimal, so it's nice to have that kind of connection. It's almost like saying, right, okay, I'm here, I'm sitting in my zone, I can do this, But I'm deeply into music, so to actually listen to music and write I'd love to do it. I mean, writers that can do that, I'm very jealous because I'd love to do that, but I can't. If I hear a piece of music, my eyes are closed and I'm off.
You're into it, yeah. So it's sort of,
I'm
it's switching on a different part of your brain that
Aye, absolutely.
Analytical rather than creative, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I like music that's challenging, so like it's not background music. It's not going to be heard in elevators or anything, you know. So it's music that's designed to infect the psyche. So it has no place in the writing process for me, anyway. For me personally. But
what do you find triggers a story for you? Can you get going off just a good opening line? Or do you have to have a character in mind? What tends to trigger the process for you?
Sometimes it could be the opening line thing does happen quite a bit, where I'll write a sentence and then think that's it, and then I'll go for there. But most of the time, it's I'll just have an idea. Something will come to mind that seems different. That's approaching something for a different side or a different angle, and I'll get excited about it, and then that'll kind of play in my mind for a few days, and it gets to the point where I've no choice but to start working on it. The problem, of course, as you know, is when all these ideas come in and they're all jostling for attention, and you're like, what one day I work on? Because it's not a quick process. It's not like writing a song where you can just lay your emotions down on the track and then work it for there. You have to spend a long time in these things. So it's a lot of the time I'll play around with the idea that I have. If I have a number of ideas going at one time, I'll maybe back shelf a few.
Yeah.
But I'll go for the one that most excites me at that moment, kind of thing, and that'll be the work. I'll say to myself, okay, this is 6 months, so is this the one that I want to dive into for 6 months? Because as you know, it consumes everything, doesn't it? I mean, it's in your thoughts all the time. You could be in the pub with your friends, you could be out having a meal. It doesn't matter. It's always in the back of your mind. You're thinking, oh, that's probably where that character's going next, or that's what that means, or that's what I was trying to get at. So you're living in it, and it's living in you. So I think it's important to find the right story. And to go back to your question, they usually just they pop up, they pop into my head, and I think, okay, that works. Even if they're really surreal, which a lot of the time they are, you know.
Yeah.
That I'll still go with it. You know, it's if it's fascinating to me, then I'll go with it.
Are you disciplined enough to keep a notebook and pen in your pocket at all times?
No,
get these threads down? No.
No, I have this thing that I do now where if I'm having a drink in the house, I'll sit with a laptop and I'll have it open with a fresh page.
Yeah.
I'll write these ideas. That's fucking brilliant, you know, and I'll type it down, and I'll wake up the next morning, there's maybe 10 of them, maybe one of them, if I'm lucky, is good, you know. But for the most part, no, I don't take notes. I kind of, when I'm writing, it's the idea comes, or as you were saying, the sentence comes, and that's enough to kickstart the whole trip. And then I'll just go where it takes me. See how it turns out, which is not always great. I've got a lot of shelf stuff, you know. So as we all do, you know.
And then you think, how many of those great ideas that I have at the pub that I couldn't remember when I got home?
Exactly. The trick is to bark them at people that you're with.
Yeah. Remember that I told you this?
Remember it tomorrow morning, yeah.
This is how you get in the acknowledgements page. This is how you get a book dedicated to. Remember this idea.
Yeah. Exactly, mate.
So when you are able to get to it at the minute, what are you writing? What's your current work in progress?
I normally only write one thing at a time, but at the moment I'm working on 3 different projects. I've got a project with Kevin J. Kennedy. Mm-hmm. We're doing a collaboration. It's kind of ground to a halt due to family issues at the moment, but it's going. When it kicks back off, it'll be going really well. Mm-hmm. That's dealing with this. We wanted to do something that was proper trashy and nasty and sleazy, and then we chose the freak show concept to go with that because it opens up so many possibilities. So that's like a new thing for me to collaborate in, like a chapter by chapter thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm doing that. I've just finished a novella. I haven't settled on a name for it yet, but it's the first thing I've written with no violence in it and no sex in it. There's nothing graphic in the entire story, but mm-hmm. I think it's the scariest thing I've written. So I want to kind of try and not break free from the whole extreme horror thing, but I don't really believe in the concept of. I certainly don't believe in the concept of labeling myself, Jack. So I want to break away from that. So I wanted to write something that was almost spiritually visceral, as opposed to being like physically visceral. So I chose that route, and that came out great. That was the one that I was working on last month, and I wrote that in the space of a couple of weeks, just tearing into it.
Yeah.
And I have a novel of my own on the go, which is tentatively titled Fred Farley and the Death Curse, which is just another one of these ideas that we came up with. I came up with I was watching, I think, the second Friday the 13th movie, I just had it in the background as we all do, because it's awesome. And I was watching that, and I got to thinking what kind of life the guy that, what was it, the Harbinger, if you want to call him that, the guy at the gas station, the guy that's, you've got a death curse. I got into the concept of what's his life like, what's he dealing with on a daily basis with these fucking teenagers showing up, and he's trying to keep his business going, but he knows there's this masked fucker out in the woods and all that. So I got into the idea of that. So I've started writing a book about that, which is more, it's got a lot of violence in it, but it's not to be taken seriously. It's a comedy.
Just a good bit of fun.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to kind of branch out and go in different directions and see where the wind takes me, so to speak.
Yeah, that all sounds really promising, and again very indicative of a development away from early projects. It's good that you're not frightened to kind of experiment and.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'd be frightened to stay, to keep doing the same thing, because if you tread water, you're going to sink. It's like why bother? I could rewrite Devil's Day forever, and people always go back to Devil's Day. It's my earliest book, like novel, but I love that novel from a distant standpoint. I've never read it, but I love it. But if I was to continue working in the same vein, like with every book, I could write 10 Devil's Days easily. But there's no fun in that. There's no challenge. So I want every book to be something new. And every idea to be something that excites me. Because I don't think if I'm excited, then the audience hopefully will be excited. But if I'm just, drawn by numbers, then it's going to be the same old bullshit, isn't it? And
that's it. Yeah.
One's enough of every idea.
Hopefully your readership will get this the shift over time. And embrace it and go, well, Kyle is, my favorite author, not necessarily my favorite horror author. What he writes, I like the way that he writes it. So, and they'll get behind it, hopefully. And you might have pockets of people who just like this style of story or that style of story, and they'll pick and choose.
And that's fine. That's fine. It's not an issue.
They get behind the ride, eh?
Yeah.
They're along for the ride and enjoying it and enjoying whichever bits of it.
I mean, I'm never going to stop enjoying writing really nasty horror. I love that. I love the feeling of writing these things. I love it's basically just it's mental masturbation, isn't it? You're getting into your own psyche. You're playing around with all the toys that you've always loved your whole life. So that's great fun. I'm never going to stop doing that. But there's always more. There's always other ideas coming through that I've got. They're horrific, a lot of them, but not in the traditional sense. So I'm trying to kind of, let myself go down that road sometimes.
Do you ever
explore it a little bit?
Do you ever get fearful that in that idea of revealing part of your psyche, do you ever find yourself going, I can't fucking write that. Do you ever have to edit yourself back like that and go, people are going to think I'm fucking nuts if I publish this? So.
I'm going to throw that back at you after I answer it, because I'd like to know your take on it as well. I do. But usually it's after I've written it. I'll read it back and as I'm doing the second draft, and I'll be like, holy fuck, right, that's what this is about. This is me unpacking all this shit through my life, or this is me unpacking this trauma, or these good times, or whatever it is. But I won't really know what the theme is until it's at least the first draft is complete, and then it'll start taking a formula and I'll start to understand it. But I do worry about it. Like, my mother won't go anywhere near my books, and I would never want her to,
No, they're not for her.
No, she'll read a couple of chapters and be like, oh, you're a good writer, son. Moving on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've only wrote maybe 2 scenes that have made me question whether to keep them in. And they just deal with things that I particularly hate. Like, since I became a father, I have a super hard time with like kids getting hurt or anything like that, especially infants. So I take no pleasure in those kind of things. So I'll avoid them in my books because there's nothing in there for me. I can't see why anyone would take pleasure in it, but understand that that's part of horror. I mean, it's horrific, so it has to be there. But other than that, no, I've written some fucked up shit, and I've never thought to myself, I'm taking it out. Even when those scenes have happened, like there's a scene in Aftertaste where something horrible happens with an infant, and I hated writing that scene, but the scene worked. It was important. And it was quick. It wasn't like I dwelled on it. Like a lot of my work, I'll dwell on it if I'm enjoying it. You know, so if it's a sex scene, I'll get right into it. I won't lie. I'll be horny when I'm writing it. So I'll get right into it. You know, that's part of being a writer, isn't it? You know,
well, that's it. It's tapping into those feelings, isn't it?
Tapping into the feelings. Yeah. So that I hated doing, and so it's only like a sense or two, but it's an important sense or two.
Yeah.
Other than that, no, it's anything goes. You know, as long as there's a purpose to it. As long as there's a point to what you're doing. You know. Yeah. Sorry.
I think my hang-up really has been the same as yours there, and it was to do with I found myself flinching away from anything to do with kids being harmed. But that being said, in a book that we shared the cover of when we were in, Christ, I've just drawn a blank. What was the name of that book?
I can't remember the name of it. It was something extreme. I think
it was Carnage. Carnage Extreme Horror.
Yeah, that was it.
So for me, because I didn't see myself as being, you know, I didn't write extreme horror. You know, I'd written The Seance and The Cabinet of Dr. Blessing up to that point.
Yeah, which were fucking awesome, might add.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you. I appreciate that. But there are gruesome moments in there, but there's nothing extreme. I don't think anybody could sit that in the category of extreme horror. And I had to sit there and think, well, what horrifies me in the extreme? And it is the randomness of violence. And when random violence occurs and innocent people are swept into it, and things like there were some, I can't remember what the riots were for. I don't think they were race-related riots. I think it was possibly like anti-capitalist riots in London years ago.
Yeah, I remember it. They kind of devolved into looting again, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I can't even remember the same. I can't remember the point of it. There was a point to start with, but there was a guy
who was just like a newspaper seller, and I think the police accosted him, and he had a heart attack.
He just fucking down, didn't he? And
he smacked his head. I mean, I'm mangling an actual piece of news here, but there was something, and I just remember the feeling that I got from that more than I remember the actual event. But it was like just that feeling of that is fucking disgraceful, or things like
dread.
I was very conflicted about Charles de Menezes when he was killed on the underground. Obviously, it was a fucking horrible tragedy. The guy wasn't a terrorist. It seemed to me like just the perfect storm of horrible incidents. You know, I would hate to be one of those police who had to pull the trigger or felt they had to pull the trigger at that time, because they've been jacked up with, you know, they just had like, what was it, July the 7th attacks. They saw this guy, you know, running for a train, and, you know, and it was just, they just thought if we don't, I get that they may have thought if we don't do something, we either lose one guy or we lose hundreds of folks. What a decision to make.
Horrifying. It's horrifying.
So I remember those feelings of, you know, the conflict of things from those, I mean, I wasn't conflicted about the newspaper seller, but, you know, that was just outright fucking terrible. And, you know, and with the Jimenez situation, I could see that, I could kind of see, you know, it was just a horrible fucking mistake from my understanding of it anyway. And, you know, here's a tragedy for this guy's family, something horrific that people have witnessed, but also something tragic that also happened in one way to the police who were there, because I don't think they just up and decided to execute a guy on that day. You know that.
Well, I certainly hope not. I
think it was.
I remember it happening, and yeah.
And
they probably. I mean, hopefully, I mean, it's horrible to say. Hopefully, they have to live with that kind of trauma. But if they weren't living with the trauma of doing what they did, then they wouldn't be human.
They wouldn't be human, you know. And so, where I tried to explore was sort of the extremes of those feelings, and there was a point at which I did describe a kid being not attacked, but it was to do with, like, you know, it was almost like a mass possession occurring in the story that I had written. And within that, people are having their bodies damaged and not necessarily noticing it, that they've got this hive mind and they are trying to, you know, attack. And I thought, well, I can't shy away from it. There would have been kids in Leeds City train station at the time that these events would have occurred. So I'm going to have to man up and tell this story and not flinch away from it.
Comes back to that authenticity, doesn't it? You have to be willing to go there.
And hopefully I managed to do it in a way that conjured up in people the feelings of disgust that I have at that kind of thing. And if I've done
from
that,
my perspective, you did. From my perspective, you did. It's only when it dips into being lurid, I think, that it becomes an issue. You know, like, one thing I just cannot write about is paedophilia. I just can't do it. But I know that writers have tackled it before, and it's been tackled in some really tasteful ways, but it's also been tackled in some ways that it's almost lurid. And I think you're walking a dangerous line there, and it's not something that I've got any desire to do, you know. It should be, I mean, the whole concept, going back to the whole extreme horror concept, it should be extreme horror in the sense that it's extremely frightening. Not in that, hey, look how many babies I can boil or anything. That's fucking nonsense, you know. I've not got any time for that stuff. So I think that's where it lies. That's my only concern, really, is the hurt my children. And there was one book where the whole book was based on that, which was Where the Dead Ones Play. It was originally called Protection. But
I read it when it was Protection. I read it there.
Yeah. And that was hard to write. That was a hard book to write. But it wasn't in any way, I hope it wasn't in any way lurid or exploitative. It was more about the sensation of loss and how grief crushes people and what the loss of a child means. Because any parent knows that feeling. I mean, you can't watch anything in the news after you became a parent, certainly. You can't watch anything in the news where a kid is hurt without sinking horror in your stomach, this feeling. It's just because your imagination runs with you, and you're like, what if that was my kid?
Absolutely.
And so I think it's good to dive into those areas, but never in an exploitative way, ever.
No, I definitely don't remember feeling like it was done in an exploitative way when I read it. But there was the whole story had this sort of profound sadness hanging over it, and you know, that was my main sort of takeaway from the story, really. Is the sort of transformative effect of really deep grief.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. So thank you. At least for you, I certainly achieved that. But that's what I was aiming for. That was the idea, you know.
I remember. I think we both enjoyed Dr. Sleep, the movie. Dr. Sleep.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think we both commented on Rebecca
Ferguson.
That scene,
yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. That fucking scene, man. I watched have you seen the extended edition?
No, I haven't, no, mate.
It's even longer. That scene's even longer.
With the little laddie with the
boy, yeah.
Aye.
And I get why it has to be there. It's not exploitive, it's genuinely horrific, which is what makes it okay. It works because you're like, holy fuck, this is horrible. But damn, that was hard. And see the thing about that kid, see that young actor?
Aye.
Great young actor, he's been in a lot of things. He is the spit of my daughter Raina. He's the spit of her. He's becoming a man now, so he's losing that thing. But he looked so much like her. And watching that scene, it was like, holy shit. I know. I couldn't stand it, man.
My oldest son, he's 7. He was I think he was 7 when it came out.
Yeah.
And so I saw this little boy, you know, coming off the sports ground with his little baseball shirt on, and Archie's got some, you know, he's got his skinny jeans and he's got little sports tops like that, you know. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I could just see him.
In that place, yeah, you can't help it.
It was, and even more than the actual where they're sort of drawing his soul out. It was just them being picked up in the van, that pickup.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, that's how easy it is, and
That's how easy it is, man.
that's
It's
the
fucking
thing is, it didn't
beyond
have to be
terrifying to me.
it didn't have to be in a horror movie. This could have been a crime movie, and it would have still just
totally
chilled you
it
to
would
the
have
core.
just the same effect. Yeah, the soul thing wasn't what got me. It was for me, it was the van, and it was also the screams of the kid.
The screams,
He's
Jesus.
like, let me go, stop it, stop
Aye.
hurting me. And it was like, holy fuck. I get why they put it in, it's important for the movie. And so I'm all for it. If it's necessary in the story, then so be it, man. But damn, that was hard. That was hard. Anytime I watch that film, when I get to that scene, because I love the movie, but I'll skip that. I don't need this in my life, man.
Rough watching that, like.
Shit. Yeah.
On social media, you're quite you're often quite politically outspoken, shall we say. Where do you feel that fits in with your work?
I don't know. I'm trying to be less outspoken on social media because, for one, I find the whole thing pointless. It's just you're pissing in the wind, man. You're everybody's got a voice, and now everybody's voice is heard, and we're all fucking superstars of their own lives. But yeah, in my books, in the early days, it was definitely a thing. It was like, even though it comes across as almost, to me anyway, almost childlike in the simplicity of my political subtext in the early books, it was just there. It was like I had a lot to say, and horror's always been the mainstay of political subtext, so it fit with what I was doing with my work. So I thought, why not? But in a good sense, it's like, I found that people can't place me in the political spectrum through my books, and that's that'll hopefully continue, because I've been called everything from a far right dickhead to a lefty liberal SJW to everything in between, a sexist. I've been called a racist because I had a black character die in a book, which is insane to call me a racist, but. All these things happen, and I'm okay with that. It's I'd rather have that than like the books aren't a fucking soapbox, to stand on and say this is my political belief. And maybe in the earlier days, maybe not even the earlier days, maybe just the first release, Consumed, it was much more overt. And and I've tried to. Well, I haven't tried. I've just moved away from that. There's no trying. I don't have any need to do that. And for me, it was. I'm underselling my work here, but so be it. It was clumsy as far as I'm concerned. Because if there's one thing that we all can share, it's art. It's something that everybody can get into, despite their political standing. And so I try to avoid that now. But then again, as you'll probably have seen over the last couple of days, occasionally it overflows on social media. I have to fucking say something, Well, I'll bottle up for ages, and then I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to say something, and then the hate pours in, and so be it, though,
I kind of think, retrospectively, looking at Consumed particularly, I think it was probably, where you've called it clumsy, I think it was probably just that same instinct, perhaps all these bottled up tensions about certain political ideas. Certainly, I think there was stuff to do with the wealthy in sort of taking advantage of sort of the working class sort of correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, you're right. 100%.
I've been racking my brains trying to remember the name of that mythology that you were building about the wealthy sort of parties where they
shit, what
wasn't it something house or house something?
Athos,
that was it.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, I was tortured.
A few times that became kind of a thing, because I still stand by that story. That's the story that I like. And I've wrote the novel that I wrote, The Club, deals with the same place, but in a far less overt political kind of take on it. It's much more just about the ride, but the elements are there. But I think it's best to have these things as subtext, Jack. They don't have to be out front, because nobody needs that shit in their life. Nobody needs to be. You go into art to be entertained. So by all means, the subtext is there if you want to find it. If you want to look for it, the surface, it's there. But it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. So I don't want people to be turned off by the fact that my political views may or may not differ from theirs.
I get what you're saying, and like you say, it is good to have it there for people to discover. And I think knowing that again, going back to sort of the way that you vary your output, I think that people will appreciate that it's just part of the broader tapestry.
Yeah,
There was
I hope so.
a phase where maybe it was more overt, and that you've blended that in more subtly, and yeah,
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
I think that's an interesting approach to take. Like you say, it's there if you want to look for it. It may be there,
Yeah,
but it's not the spine of the book. So
yeah, it's not right up. I mean, the first book was called Consumed, obviously dealing with consumerism, and
yes,
so it was very, very upfront, very obvious at that point. And I don't think that's for me. That's not the way to go. I don't. I want the art to stand as art. You're telling stories. You're not preaching. You know. So I want to keep. Obviously, your own political leanings are going to feature in your work, Jack.
Yeah.
But they don't have to overtake the narrative or the story or anything like that, because that's what really counts, you know.
Yeah. So it
If
doesn't
we're in
come
this
at the
business,
cost of that.
yeah, we're in this business to entertain and to help people escape, or maybe in some instances have a look at themselves.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be overt. It doesn't have to be so upfront where it becomes a turn off to people. You know?
No, I think people appreciate balance, don't they? And they can.
Yeah, I think so.
I think everybody finds something different in a book or a movie, don't they? There's always somebody who comes at it with an interesting take, and you think, "Oh shit, I didn't see that in there before."
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You don't. I mean, it's much better to leave it open. I mean, I think it's the same thing with music. It's if you inject too much of yourself or your beliefs into a story, then it no longer becomes like a Rorschach for the audience, you know, for the reader or the listener or what have you. It becomes a soapbox, and I think it's more important to have the audience find their own meaning in it.
Absolutely.
Find their own truth.
I think the effects of that are longer lasting as well, rather than sort of a pedagogical sort of stance, like spoon feeding people. This is what you need to think. I think all art is far more effective. Like when people look at a Banksy piece, and you kind of go, you know, I can see that it's cool, but what's it saying? And you kind of sit on it for a while, and you know, you percolate, and then sometimes you'll find a meaning.
Yeah.
And finding it for yourself, I think, is often a much more longer lasting thing.
Yeah.
Because you've had to do the work. You've had to challenge yourself.
Gratifying. And it speaks to the reader or listener as well. I mean, it gives them a connection, and it gives you a connection to them as well, because none of us are perfect. None of us know every intricacy of our beliefs. I mean, I think the only way to be honest is to question your beliefs, like at every opportunity. You know, watch news that you don't agree with, listen to people that you despise, you know, and vice versa. You know, let it all flow and see where it takes you, because you can't be intellectually honest with yourself if you don't.
No, so. And there's definitely, I definitely agree with you on the listening to people you despise, because there is this thing of, especially on social media, this thing about censorship, and I take the view that, you know, if we, you know, you get a lot of people just saying this one's a Nazi, or, you know, you caused a character to die in the book that you created, this fictional person, so you're a racist. Yeah. If we carry on like that, then we're not actually going to know what a real racist, what a real threat to freedom looks like. Exactly. And if we don't get to hear that idiot in the White House coming out with this spiel, or if we don't get to read, like when Boris was talking about, you know, women in burqas looking like letterboxes and all this shit, if we didn't get to see that, then we would never actually know what that looks like. You know, we don't get to know how that person thinks, for us to go, head on, we've got to watch that fucker.
Absolutely.
You know, so
you got to know what you're looking for, and all these names that are getting thrown about from the left and the right, it goes both ways, you know.
Absolutely.
It's all just the vision bells ringing, really, isn't it? I mean, most people are genuinely fucking decent.
Yeah, I think they mean to be.
I think they mean to be, yeah. They might end up not being, but they mean to be. And they just happen to have the algorithms of YouTube or what have you have taken them down a certain path. And I'm no no less or more inclined to that myself. I mean, my algorithms have took me down this path, so I've started. But the difference is, for a lot of people, I think intellectually honest people will then look at the other side and look at all sides and try to encompass what's really going down, as opposed to just saying, right, I have this tribal, this is my tribe, and I'll back them up no matter what the fuck happens, and that's like a shortcut to thinking that leads nowhere. And if we're not all talking, then these motherfuckers that are in power will continue to divide us, and it'll lead more and more strife. So we need to start talking instead of just shouting, "You're a Nazi," or "You're a snowflake," or "You're this," "You're left," "You're right." We're humans, man.
Yeah.
These people put us in this place, but we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay in the mindset that they put us in.
Absolutely not. I saw one post today. I think I saw it on Twitter, and this guy has put on there, and it's been like shared thousands of times. And he put, "I lost my aunt today," and I thought, "Oh, COVID-19, maybe." Read the second sentence of the tweet. She didn't die. I just discovered she was a racist. And it was like, that's you're just making your own mind up. Instead of muting her, you've listened and you've thought, that doesn't sit right with me. Fuck off, and it's important.
I think a lot of people. It's easy to be fucking angry in this day and age, man. We're living through history at the moment, but we have to listen to each other. There has to be nuance. It's got to the point where on Facebook or any kind of social media, if you write, say, "I don't like Obama," then suddenly people will assume you're a Trump supporter. If you say you support Trump, then people will assume you're a racist, So you can't everybody's just putting each other in little boxes as opposed to actually talking to each other. Because we're all having
the nuance is all gone, isn't it? There's no nuance anymore.
Has been lost. It's been lost. I mean, it's still there in certain podcasts and things like that. Like, you go to the Joe Rogan show, I listen to that quite a lot, and you'll find that there's a very mixed balance of people that I detest and people that I love and I respect. But I'll listen to them all because it's important to hear the other side, and then it's important to be honest with yourself and say, is there anything I agree with that this person's saying? Is there anything that they could be saying better? Is there any way to look at it differently? Is there a way to see him somewhere in the middle where we can meet and have that kind of Christmas Day in the fucking trenches kind of thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to all hating each other and fighting each other. Yeah. Because eventually that leads to, it's divide and conquer, isn't it?
Absolutely,
it really is. That's what they're playing at,
and I think that's done. That's even easier accomplished when we're all in this sort of lockdown situation as well, because everybody's isolated, even from their own families. For some people, that'll be a good thing. For some people, it's fucking horrific. So
that's it. That's it. Our echo chambers are now even more precise, aren't they? They're even more defined now, so we can all just sit in our houses and fucking surf the net and put up our little comments on Facebook and Twitter and all that, and have our little free sentences that somehow are supposed to sum up our political views or other people's political views, and it's bullshit. Bullshit. There's more to people, I think. Yeah. I think there's more that connects us than divides us.
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think you're right.
I'm being very optimistic here, but
you are.
Yeah. I'm being idealistic. I'm getting older. I'm less angry, but I do. I think there's people in my life, personal life, who have vastly different opinions from I do, and it's it can be hard. It's hard for them. It's hard for me. It's one of those things. But you have to find common ground, because if we let them divide us completely, then they win. The battle's over. You know. So I try to take a more compassionate stance on it these days, I guess, Jack. Although it might not always come across that way in social media, but again, that's social media. You're throwing out your thought in the moment. You're throwing out.
It's a snapshot, isn't it? It's a snapshot rather than a whole ethos.
Yeah, it doesn't define you. It doesn't define who you are. It's just a snapshot of what you're thinking in that particular minute. We have millions of thoughts a day, so
Speaking of potentially divisive opinions, I'll bring it back to books. Now that we've put the world right, do you ever read your reviews? Do you go on Amazon and have a look at your reviews and have a dig?
Sometimes, yeah. I try not to, but if I have a few glasses of wine in me, occasionally I'll be like, let's check it out and see what's going down.
It's hard to resist.
It's never a good idea, though. It's fucking. I've seen other writers that will then reply, because you can reply to your own reviews. That's a fucking terrible idea. But there's people do it, like, how dare you say I'm a this or that, and I'm like, fuck that. Let people think what they might think.
I know.
We're not here to impress anybody, we're here to do our job and be as honest with ourselves as we can. So
I've been
I got a lot of static, man. A lot of static. I got a lot of good reviews too, which are nice, but I never really take any of them seriously, good or bad.
Yeah,
they're just there. They're
a thing.
As long as I'm happy with the work, I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah. No, you get some interesting approaches from authors when it comes to reviews and reviewers. I noticed Ginger Nuts of Horror. Big Jim had posted something the other day or last week about his reviewers receiving threats and being accosted in the street and all this. I mean, how the hell do people
it's fucking insanity.
If one person didn't like your thing, they might have some influence, but some people will read it to see how bad it is.
Exactly. I mean, all press is good press, man.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the reviews I love, are like the ones I've read, are really bad, and they're, if nothing, they're entertaining, but they're also like, they could definitely, they're the kind of things that I'd read their reviews and then I'd be like, I'm reading that fucking book, I'm going to have a shot at that. So you got to have thick skin, man. If any time you're putting art out there, you're it yourself, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah,
not everybody in this life's going to like you.
No.
So be it. Who cares?
That's where the sort of the tension comes, isn't it? I'm putting a part of myself out there, and I think a lot of authors find it very difficult not to be hurt by negative feedback on it.
I think so.
It's as if the criticism is of them rather than just the way that they phrased it or the priorities that they gave on the page. And it's difficult to keep that in mind, isn't it? To keep the separation.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. I'm okay with it. I'm quite adept at being detached with it, but I know a lot of people aren't, and I understand that. And so I do understand like the hurt that can come from it, but it's part of the gig, isn't it? It's something that you do, It's
you got to be prepared to catch some shit.
Yeah, you're going to catch some shit no matter what you do. It's going to happen,
I remember back in the day, you were quite an accomplished reviewer yourself. You had a website running.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And there was maybe a hint that might be coming back.
Yes, I have a website that's getting built at the moment, Jack, and it's my own official website, offer website, but it's more. I'm trying to make it more than that. I don't want it just to be me fucking jerking off in a dark room, So I want to make it. I don't want it to be like, hey, it's the Kyle show, So I want to bring in offers and do interviews with musicians and just keep it broad and keep it wide and keep it open and kind of try to just the real idea is to hopefully bring new people into loving horror and also loving music, because I'm passionate about music, so I want to, if I can, like introduce people to new tunes and stuff like that, and give younger authors or upcoming authors a chance to have their word. So and it's mutually, from a business standpoint, it's mutually beneficial for everybody.
Yeah,
because I mean, you'll have my links on the page, but they won't be up front, but they'll be there. But you'll also, so these offers, they might have readers that I don't have, and vice versa. So you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun, and I'm going to review a lot of films and stuff. I've already got like about 30 reviews sitting.
Yeah, just ready to go.
Yeah, I used to post them on Facebook. I'd go to the cinema, watch a movie, and if I was jazzed about it, I'd sit and write away about it and all that. And then I was like, well, why am I doing it here when I can do it in a place where people can come to it and find it easy access and won't get lost in a feed or something, So it just seemed like the right thing to do. And it's not like it's going to like affect my work or anything.
No.
If anything, it's going to help it, because I enjoy writing reviews. I enjoy that, like looking at other people's work. And
yes, I was thinking that as you were saying it, to be honest. Yeah, because I find even doing this, I mean, you're the third interview that I've done, but as I'm prepping and I'm reading people's work and just kind of refreshing myself on things, and I found it easier to sit. Well, I'm at the keyboard already, so I'll bash out a few hundred words while I'm here. So hopefully you'll kind of find that approach works.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, take it as hopefully it'll inspire me even more so. The downside, I'll bring in other reviewers as well, because I kind of tend to, there's enough negativity in the world, so I kind of, if I go to see a movie and it sucks, or listen to a song or a track or whatever and it sucks, I tend to, that's it, it's gone, it's disappeared, you know, I'm not
Yeah.
interested. So I'll tend to only write about things that I love. So I
Yes.
could come across as like just some asshole that loves everything.
Loves everything. Yeah.
So this is great, everything's fucking fantastic. But that's not the case. I just don't want to spend any time in negativity, you know.
I'm absolutely with you there. I won't put up anything less than like a 4-star review on Amazon or Goodreads or anything.
Yes,
and even then, sometimes I feel like a dick thinking, well, what would have gotten that extra star on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why is it a 4? Who am I to say it's a 4?
Who am I to say it's a 4? Exactly. You feel guilty about it. So, I don't want to be a part of that, you know. But I understand the validity of it, so I'll have other writers that can come in and do guest reviews and stuff like that. They can take it that way. If someone really insults me, like it's really fucking insulting, like the Curse of La Llorona or something like that, just some really Hollywood bullshit kind of vibe up, then I'll rant about it because it's not hurting anybody. You're dealing with massive corporations here. You're not really going to do any damage. I'm just going to wave my wee flag and say this is not what horror's about. But I would never attack independent horror, or
no,
even the B-movie level horror. It's like, no, these people are trying, man. Everybody's doing their best, you know.
Yeah.
And even if a movie or a book doesn't like appeal to me, there's always something of worth to be found in it. You know, there's always something in there that's almost always.
When you look back at, I was talking about this with one of my brothers, and I think it was James Cameron we were talking about, and was it Piranha 2 that is in his IMDb credits?
Flying fish or flying piranha.
The flying piranhas. The rig that he used for filming that, he then used for something to do with the face huggers or something in Aliens. So while he was cutting his teeth with this low rent stuff, he found techniques that he could then use on, one of the most popular franchises of all time, really.
Yeah, there's always something good to be found in there. Yeah. There's you probably have heard of it. There's a YouTube channel called Cinema Sins, where they write, like, every video will be like maybe 10 minutes long, and they'll rhyme off like all the shitty things and mistakes in the movie. And that doesn't appeal to me, man. It's fun to watch, but it doesn't really appeal to me. And a channel popped up maybe a couple of months back. I discovered it a few months ago, called Cinema Wins, and it was looking at these same movies that might be shitty in so many ways, but they're looking at, hey, well, look at that bit of dialogue there really works. Oh, that's a really nice inflection. Look at the way the lights hit there, the camera works set up. I'm more in that line of thinking, try and find the good in it.
It might be the same people on antidepressants.
They might be bipolar. That's a lot of shit, upswing. The next day, it's actually quite fucking good. Yeah. So, but I tend to view it towards the positive. So,
that's good, and I think, especially for up and coming writers or new filmmakers, they need that out there. They need people who, if I haven't got something really positive to say, but maybe I will just sit back a bit and. I won't mislead people. I won't say something dishonest, but I won't shit all over it, because there'll be something. Some people will find something of value in there, and I think that's important.
Nobody wants to drag anybody else down, do they? I mean, we're all kind of fighting to struggle our way through the world anyway. So why would you want to drag another human being down? So, I'm with you 100% on it.
I can also see that some sites that are sort of. They've got big teams of reviewers, and that they're paying those reviewers out and things like that. I can see where they need just content, and that content is going to go up whether it's positive or negative. So it's not how I particularly would like to work, but I appreciate that that's what they've got to do, because that's the model that they've got. It's whether it's good, bad, or ugly, they've got to see it.
Yeah, it's part of it. I would certainly, going to reviews, I would certainly rather have someone write an honest bad review than a fake good review,
Absolutely.
Who's got time for that,
Yeah.
It's like
that's like these people paying for reviews, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. What's the deal with that? That's not going to help you in any way become better, and it's certainly not going to break you your echo chamber. So why do it? In the early days, I know a lot of people would go to their friends for reviews. I've been guilty of it myself in the very early days, and the reviews would read great, but you'll know yourself. You read them, and then you're like, yeah, it's a great review, but it's from someone I know. So it's
they're being kind.
It's back to that thing we were talking about at the start of the interview. It's because you don't know if it's honest or if it's not. So it's much more enthralling, I think, when it's strangers, whether it's good or bad, because at least they're being honest.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So,
where should anybody who hasn't read any of your work at the minute, so anybody who's listening to this who wants a good jumping on point, what do you recommend?
It's going to haunt me forever, but I have to recommend Devil's Day. It's the book that everybody goes back to. It's the one that it's certainly not the best book I've written, but it's a good starting point for my style, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got the whole exploitation thing going on. It's very freewheeling. It's hopefully entertaining. So it's a good place to start, and then go from there into some of the deeper, darker stuff. You know, like Will the Dead Ones Play and Dark Island, things like that.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely recommend Devil's Day has been a great jumping on point myself. You know, I can see why you would use that as a good sort of launch platform for people.
Yeah,
so.
it's a very easy book to get in. You know, I think it's some of the other stuff's a bit more challenging, but there's much more merit in that for me personally. But it might not be the best place to start. Like if someone reads Love Lies Dead for their first book, they might never read anything I write again. So you know, it's a good place to start, I think. So yeah, if you're listening, Devil's Day, give it a try.
Absolutely. Well, I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes for
Thank you, man.
I'll be putting in, you know, a couple of your books anyway, but I'll make sure Devil's Day is in there as the recommended read. Where can people find you on social media? Where do you tend to?
I don't use Twitter, which is very good for my mental health. I'm on Facebook. Can be found on Facebook under Kyle M. Scott. And if they're looking for any of my books, they can go to Amazon and find them all there under my offers page. Just type in Kyle M. Scott, it'll bring me up right off. And you'll find all the work there, good or bad, and then you can leave a review and let me know how much you love or hate it.
Yeah, and you'll either read it or you won't.
Yeah, I'll maybe read it drunk one night and forget about it, you know, so the heartbreak doesn't set in.
Kyle, it's been great catching up with you. I hope we get past the lockdown so you can get it back out on your bike and get a few thousand words written.
Let's hope so, man.
So thank you very much for coming on board.
Thank you very much.
I hope you'll come back on again as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we can talk about a different aspect of writing, or maybe, you know, come on, talk about a new release. Yeah,
we can go in depth with anything you like, Jack. I'll be there.
Spot on. Brilliant. Well, I look forward to it. All right, and I'll catch you soon. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Fiendish Minds. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow the link below for today's show notes, where you can find reading lists and more information about today's guests. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.